All right, we're live.
Thank you.
And I think that Yolanda will be here momentarily. Hi, Yolanda. Let's see here. Yolanda, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry, I was muted earlier.
That's all right. All good. How are you this evening?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Good. Are we waiting for anyone else, or are you?
Yes, Greg Gardner is joining us as well from Wheaton Properties. He should be any minute now.
All right. Will you let us know if we miss it when Greg joins, and then we'll have our chair, Craig Dorward, do an introduction and get you started.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Greg is here now.
And there he is. So
Yeah.
Thanks very much. I'm going to turn it over to Craig Dorward.
Thank you. Welcome to the Edmonton Design Committee for the formal DP presentation of the Wheaton Cadillac project.
Can people hear me now?
Yeah. We'd like to remind you that this is a public meeting. We have all received and reviewed your submission package. Your team will have 10 minutes to present, and then we will go virtual roundtable of the committee members for questions. After the presentation, the committee will deliberate and respond to you in writing within 48 hours. Can you hear us, Greg? Sounds like he might be having some audio issues.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. I can't hear you guys though. Oh. Can you hear me now? No, that's a mic test.
Yeah, I think Janice, I'm texting him all the same things. I just told him to maybe try leaving and coming back.
Okay, I'm going to leave and come back in. Okay.
While we're waiting, Craig, I just wanted to clarify, this is the formal for the zoning and not for the DP.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My script is failing me.
I just wanted to make sure because I do not have designs and things that if people are expecting them, I only have zoning.
Yolanda, you don't want to do a 2-for-1 tonight?
If I had the info, yes, but unfortunately I do not.
The next 3 are DPs, though.
Now it's painfully obvious that I didn't get my script updated, tailored in.
Oh, Greg is back. Can you hear us now, Greg?
Okay, can people hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay, I can't hear anybody.
There's nothing in the Google Meet interface that can be changed. I wonder if, Greg, you have your speaker muted. Oh, you can't hear me. Anyway. Thanks, Janice.
Mm.
Can you hear us now, Greg?
Mm.
I guess we should keep talking. Fill the air in case catches it for him.
Is anyone saying anything now at all?
Can you hear us now? It's like that old Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I don't know what else to recommend here other than what you've mentioned, Janice.
Yolanda, just I assume Greg's on the call to answer questions.
Yes, I'm doing the presentation and Greg is available if there's any kind of specific questions on his end that he might be able to answer. Do you want us to maybe get going on the presentation
Yeah,
itself and then?
I wonder if there's a way to just get started on the presentation, and then if there's any questions of Greg,
Maybe.
where they can do it through texting or maybe you and he can communicate offline. I don't know, but we should just get started, I think.
Okay, I've asked him too if he can try logging in on his phone and maybe the sound will work on there, but he can just mute one of these so that, or both of them for now, so that he can see presentation, etc.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Okay. Do you
Sorry
have
about
my?
this, everybody.
Can you hear us now?
I don't think so.
Sounds like a no.
Do you have my presentation, Peter, that I sent over?
I've got it, Yolanda.
Yeah.
Did you want me to present?
Yes, if you could, please.
Yeah, no problem.
And as soon as it's up, I'll turn it over to you, Yolanda, to introduce and present the project.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig. Okay. Good evening. My name is Yolanda Liu from Stantec Consulting. I'm here today on behalf of Wheaton Properties for a rezoning application from DC1 to DC in the Strathcona Junction neighborhood. With me here today is Greg Gardner. He's the managing director of Wheaton Properties. The sale of the property is contingent on successful rezoning. So at this time, we only have some high-level conceptual renderings that have been completed to give you kind of an idea of what it could look like. But should the rezoning be approved, the design will be guided by the proposed zone, and then they will be back at EDC with the development permit with further details and drawings for you at that point. Next slide, please. The subject site is located south of 71st Avenue, north of 68th Avenue, west of Gateway Boulevard, and east of existing commercial and industrial properties, which are located on or in proximity to Calgary Trail. Next slide, please. To the north of the site is the NAIT South Campus. Directly along their southern border is a parking lot where they have no direct access for doorways, etc. for people. As well, there is a loading area for the campus as well. To the east are commercial and industrial developments, including the City Southwest District Yard and the CPR Rail. To the south is a commercial industrial parcel, which includes Home Depot. And to the west are a mix of industrial and commercial businesses. Next slide, please. The site is currently vacant and fenced off. There's limited landscape along Gateway Boulevard that will need to be cleaned up with redevelopment. Redevelopment will help to revitalize the area with more traffic, improved aesthetics in regards to new buildings, and an improved public realm. Next slide, please. On February 4th, the informal EDC meeting was held. The prevalent comments we heard were related to providing better pedestrian connectivity, moving the buildings closer to Gateway Boulevard, providing opportunities for redevelopment. In the following slides, we will go into further details in regards to the changes to the DC zone regulations that address these comments. Next slide, please. So the application proposes to rezone the site to a new DC, which will accommodate a new car dealership to begin with. Should the rezoning be approved, it would facilitate the move of the Wheaton Cadillac car dealership, which is currently located on White Avenue, to this new location. This will then open up the White Avenue site for redevelopment, similar to what Wheaton Properties has already accomplished with the development of South Park. Next slide, please. The proposed uses that are permitted within the zone have been updated to continue to provide the opportunity for a car dealership, as well as new uses have been added to be consistent with the mixed-use zone. This allows for a mix of commercial, residential, community, and basic service uses. This will allow opportunities for the site to be developed further as market conditions change and the area evolves. Next slide, please. Additional regulations have also been added for the specific uses which are now included in the DC. All these regulations are in line with the mixed-use zone. In addition, a new regulation has been added so that fuel stations and car washes are only permitted where accessory to the car dealership and cannot be developed as standalone. Next slide, please. The setback to Gateway Boulevard has been slightly reduced from 6 meters to 5.5 meters. The setback cannot be reduced any further as the existing shared use path is within the property. You can see this from the purple line that is shown on the figure here. Any further reduction would result in either no shared use path or no landscaping along Gateway Boulevard. Easements will be provided to maintain this pedestrian and cycling access to the shared use path and to maintain the shared use path as well. Next slide, please. We have added general regulations to the DC, which are in alignment with the mixed-use zone, along with additional regulations to add to improvements to the public realm and interface with Gateway Boulevard. This includes main entrances directed towards the street with safe access to public sidewalks, a minimum of 2 pedestrian connections from Gateway Boulevard to the buildings, which are clearly demarcated, as well as a public amenity area to be located on Gateway Boulevard. This public amenity area is to be a minimum of 150 square meters and include features such as landscaping, seating areas, public art, etc. The number of display vehicles has also been clarified with the maximum of 4 display vehicles along Gateway Boulevard. For the car dealership portion of the development, a new regulation has also been added to ensure the main view for pedestrians, cyclists, or drivers is the showroom, and any service-related activities are located a minimum of 20 meters from Gateway Boulevard. Next slide, please. As part of the opportunities for future development of the site, we have also included regulations that over time will help with the reduction of surface parking. This includes the opportunity for further development as well as for above-ground parking. Where provided, the above-ground parking must be screened with residential, commercial, or community uses and be adaptable for future redevelopment. Parking is also permitted on the roof of buildings, provided the parking is screened from view from the street. Next slide, please. Additional public improvements have been added to the DC zone. This includes the dedication and construction of 69th Avenue, which will include 2-way traffic, a 3-meter shared use path along the north side of the property, which will continue beyond the property to Calgary Trail, a 1.2-meter sidewalk on the south side of the property, mid-block crosswalks, as well as street trees. Additional regulations will see improvements to Gateway Boulevard, including removal of all existing accesses, removal of the existing lay-by area, maintaining the 3-meter shared use path and a 2.5-meter boulevard, as well as landscape requirements. Next slide, please. The design for the site is subject to rezoning approval with final design for each development permit to come back to the Edmonton Design Committee. A high-level site plan is included with the zoning, which allows for flexibility of design and development of the site over time, but highlights the required upgrades to roads and the public realm. Next slide, please. The proposed rezoning meets Principle A urbanism by redeveloping a vacant parcel that is located along one of the city's primary corridors. The zoning includes additional landscaping beyond what is typically required in the zoning bylaw, as well as an amenity area. This will bring activation of the site, bringing more people to the area and an aesthetically pleasing site as well. The building will include transparency at grade to allow viewing into the buildings, along with connection points for vehicles along the avenues and for pedestrians from the avenues, as well as Gateway Boulevard. Over time, the zoning allows for further development of the site, bringing more people and activation. Next slide, please. Principle B, design excellence, will be further expanded on with the development permits once designs are in place and details such as materials will be available. Next slide, please. The proposed rezoning meets Principle C, scale, connections, and context by improving the public realm through additional landscaping and connections to the site, as well as cleanup of the site from its current conditions. All parking is buffered from streets with additional landscaping, pedestrian connections to the site from adjacent sidewalks, as well as internally to the site. Connections are further enhanced with the connection of 69th Avenue, which will provide a shared use path connecting Gateway Boulevard to Calgary Trail. The proposed development will further enhance the area, which is predominantly developed with larger industrial and large format commercial uses. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time today, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. Sorry, I kind of messed up the formatting in our chat here, but Shay, you're up first.
All right. Thank you, Yolanda, for your presentation. We appreciate your comprehensiveness. That was awesome. I don't have too much to speak to on this one for the zoning. I did just take a couple of comments that were just in response to more to the conceptual site plan. I mean, there are a lot of provisions in the verbiage there to maintain and improve the street trees and the kind of the interface between that heavy traffic on Gateway Boulevard and then the new development of the Wheaton car dealership. There are a lot of existing trees there. I just know that with car dealerships, you don't want a lot of trees blocking your views of a lot of the products on, or the cars on site. So just the provision to maintain a high tree count there, maybe a specific quantity, an area, a tree per area along the street boulevard. And then just taking a look at that, again, that site development with the removal of that interface at 70th Avenue, you just get that larger super block. And it's just really easy to make that an asphalt heavy development. It is nice to be able to break it up, or if you're pushing the buildings closer to the gateway, that allows you to maybe have the appearance of it feeling less monolithic. And additionally, I think some of the other comments from the informal still remain in relation to the pedestrian connectivity around some of the other roadways there, especially on 68th Ave. I think that one still feels heavily disconnected from Nate and the CMUs that exist directly to the west of the project. Just being able to ensure that this doesn't become an island and it's difficult for pedestrians to get access to additional amenities in the area, especially for those who are attending Nate and maybe want to walk to some of the coffee shops that are directly west of this development. So there's a couple of high level comments there less related to the zoning and more towards some of the design criteria there. I think that's everything I have though.
Okay, thank you, Shay. Just in terms of the landscaping, yeah, we are proposing to clean up the site a little bit. It's a little bit overgrown in terms of the trees and the shrubs that are there, and the regulation does require more trees and shrubs per square meter than the zoning bylaw requires. So there might be some more clumping of some of the landscaping rather than having it all kind of throughout. As well, there's a 2.5 meter boulevard that needs to be maintained between the roadway and the shared use path, then a 3 meter shared use path followed by landscaping before you get to kind of any buildings, parking, etc. that is on site. 68th Avenue, it's kind of strange, is actually a parcel that is owned by the Home Depot site. It is not an actual roadway, so we aren't able to make any improvements there because it is private property. We are bringing 69th Avenue through on the property to provide that connection for vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists. And we have also agreed to continue that shared use path past the property all the way to Calgary Trail to provide that connection as well. 70th Avenue, there are some challenges in terms of bringing that road across, of kind of breaking up the site too much, of being able to fit the necessary buildings that are required. As well, there's some other landowners that are located within that right of way of 70th, which we've had conversations with throughout the zoning process, and they have indicated that they have no intent of moving or changing kind of their business at this time. So difficult for us to provide a connection that at this time would lead nowhere.
Okay, thanks, Yolanda. All fair comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mindy.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you very much for your presentation. No questions. Shay covered what I was wondering about, so thanks, Yolanda.
Thank you, Mindy.
Nick.
Thanks, Yolanda. Good presentation. Just looking at the DCs, I was looking at a little bit more detail. The only question I have is around the building setback. Instead of a minimum, what's your view on, say, setting a maximum to create some more building orientation towards the road?
It would be something that we would need to take a look at. Right now, there's no design yet, so we'd have to see if it was feasible just based on the requirements of the dealership itself. But yeah, it would be something that we could take a look at.
Thanks, Yolanda. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Janice. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, had to hit mute. So similar to Nick, I had a very similar question about potentially setting a maximum distance, especially at the building. I will say I appreciated the added or clarified verbiage in the zoning text regarding the 20-meter setback in regards to kind of those dealership type services, so like the service bays, etc. But you did note in your presentation that you really want those passerbys to have a main view of the showroom, and with kind of the current site plan showing that row of parking there at the building, I don't think that's going to be achieved. So kind of a similar comment that you've heard already from both Shay and Nick. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Janice. David.
Yeah, Yolanda, thanks for your presentation. Sort of building off of Shay's and Nick's and Janice's comments. When I went through the package again, one of the things that would have been really good is your section on urban pattern and that placemaking section. It would have been I think it would have been a good exercise to sort of apply those 5 Lynchian pattern elements to the site section, and because I think that would have actually better informed the development intent and sort of that hierarchy of pattern elements and sort of the subsequent zoning design regulations, because I think a lot of the comments that you received, some of the feedback you received the last time and sort of hearing again, is that I don't think all of those opportunities have been totally explored. And I think by applying that, you could, look at, establishing a distinct district for this development that has, very specific essence and character, and show how it's aligning with the surrounding district. Identifying some potential landmark opportunities that establish reference points within site and connect to the surrounding context. I think another big one is this node hierarchy and locations, like sort of defining where perimeter and internal nodes should, a hierarchy of nodes should be to better define entryways and inform wayfinding and maybe aspects of vehicular and pedestrian connectivity. And then I think the big one that you've heard a concern about is the edge conditions. So, where you know the proper siting of buildings to form sort of a very strong gateway edge, and maybe reduce the level of parking and vehicle sales in that area, or you know the level of landscaping along that edge or other site edges, or even the level of landscape to define internal edges of the site. So it would have been really nice to see some of that, you know, as I said, that section on urban pattern and how it's informed, you know, the zoning, the DC zoning of this site, and sort of the design regulations within it, and then how it would, you know, then subsequently inform the development permit. So yeah, I think there could have been a little bit more exploration, and if there was that exploration, it would have been nice to see that sort of storyline in that exploration. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
I don't think so, but yeah, understanding kind of looking at the context and everything that you're wanting to see around there, it is a little bit challenging with what is existing around the area. This is probably the first kind of redevelopment of trying to include opportunities for different uses to be located here. It's very industrial right now, so hoping to add some uses to help kind of turn things around and then move towards some of the policies and whatnot of the plan itself.
Yeah, and you know, like, but this development, you know, in whatever shape, form, or size it comes in, is a bit of a precedent setting for, you know, potential redevelopment of, as you say, some of those light industrial uses that surround the site. So, you know, I think it's important that, you know, this development, you know, as I said, set a precedent for, you know, future development south of or across the gateway from this site. So anyway, once again, thanks for your presentation.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I think my comments, mostly from Shay and a little bit from David, have already been addressed. So yeah, so I've nothing additional to add. Thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan. Karen.
Hi there. Thanks for the presentation. I don't think I have anything hugely new. I do appreciate the attention that's been paid to the ideas around future proofing. I think something that I really want to make sure that we are aware of is the potential for those future road connections, even though they're not feasible now, but just making sure that they're regarded when they're doing the site planning, that, you know, potentially future long range. I do see this to some degree as a bit of an interim use, midterm interim use. So yeah, rather see something than nothing. So but yeah, just making sure I think the maximum setbacks and things like that will go a long way into directing the policy side of the site development.
Thanks, Karen. Kevin.
Sorry, it took me a minute to find the right button. Thank you, Yolanda, for the presentation. Nice to see you again. My comments, I would support what we've heard from the rest of the committee here tonight. My question is around 69th Avenue, and it's quite specific. It's showing the shared use path and the sidewalk as mono walks to a 9-meter wide carriageway. I'm wondering, like, as the design of that avenue advances, is it possible to have separate sidewalk and pathway with some tree planting or something that makes it feel a little more pedestrianized, rather than, because 9 meters is quite a wide carriageway as well. It is a fairly utilitarian cross section, and that is kind of the singular public right-of-way amenity in the development. Is there the potential that something can be done to spruce that up a bit?
There most likely is. There's further work that needs to be done on the actual design of that road in terms, yeah, we haven't gone through those details yet, and it needs to be approved by the city. But there is tree requirement that is written into the zone itself. And so that piece, and then the requirement for the sidewalk on the south side and the 3-meter shared use path on the north, those are written into the DC. So those components are required, but the actual width of roads and lanes, etc., are all to be still determined through consultation with the city.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks, Yolanda.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Neil.
Thank you. Don't have that much more to add. More of a question. You've identified a maximum of 4 vehicle displays. What counts as a display?
So our displays that we were looking at was where it's a car that's maybe put up onto like a pedestal or a little bit kind of angled to be placed a little closer to the street. And so it's not any cars that are parked along the inside, but they're actually like put on display along the street.
Car parked on the inside and had a sign on it, like 2025 new model. That would not count as a display.
Correct.
That's what I thought. So it's, yeah, no, it's kind of, I should have asked that for staff. I was like, as I was double checking it, that was the one that kind of tripped me up. But yeah, I think where our stance is, and how do we, like, there's a lot in this DC that's about flexibility, but not a lot about how will this site fit the sort of ambitions, the urban ambitions of the district. So I wish we saw more of that. It would be sort of my comment, but otherwise, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a challenge with these larger sites that are in these areas where, I don't know, not a lot of people want to live across the street from the city yards right now.
Exactly. It's a transition, and and I totally understand the client needs that flexibility to come out with a good outcome.
Yeah, it will take time for this area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Comes to me. I don't have anything new to say. I think I missed it earlier. Can you explain to me again what's the limitation that is preventing sidewalk on the south end of the site along 68th Ave?
Oh, yeah. So that is actually not a city road. That roadway is part of the parcel that is owned by the Home Depot to the south. So while it looks like a road and has a road on there, it's actually private property. And so to get a sidewalk, it would be further negotiations with the Home Depot site, which they don't really seem to be open to any adjustments right now. And so it's difficult for us to build anything there.
Okay, thank you. That was all I had. Thank you for your presentation. Sorry, one second. Thank you for bringing this before the Edmonton Design Committee. We will now transition into deliberations. Feel free to stay on the meeting, but we ask that you do not participate in the deliberations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone want to kick us off?
I found David's comment in regards to that 5 Lynchian pattern elements very, very interesting.
I might add, I really love David's comment there, and I really love that. I wish there was some kind of diagrammatic aspect that would include like that hierarchy of nodes on the site. Like, this is how we anticipate it would be. I don't know if you want to be so prescriptive as to be the 5 Lynchian pattern elements, is what I'm saying. But it is identified in the section, so it does make sense.
Yeah, yes, I'm referring to them because they're referred to in the actual document in section 2.5. So, and I think there's some validity in doing that assessment of the surrounding context, but I think there's a lot more validity in taking those aspects and applying them to the site to better inform
Very much so. Yes.
the zoning and sort of the design regulations and so on and so forth. So it seems to just, for me, it's just a missing aspect for this site that I think would have actually addressed a lot of the questions and concerns that the committee has had to date, both, you know, in the informal and formal.
Yeah, like you've done all this this area analysis, but you haven't explained how it will come into the site itself. Not you, the applicant.
Do we want to say something about Kevin? I believe it was your comment about the composition, the road section of 69th.
Yeah, it might be kind of specific for rezoning. I don't know. I'm very curious to hear what others think, but it's kind of the one pedestrian route, pedestrian focused or enabled element through the site, if that's the right way to say it. And it's like going to be pretty utilitarian and barren.
You're thinking like a boulevard with some trees.
A boulevard with some trees would be a
sidewalk.
simple
Yeah.
thought. Yeah. I had a look on maps and there's nothing to the west when it connects with 69 Ave currently. So there's not a driver from an existing conditions perspective that's dictating that it should be a mono walk versus a separate walk. I just feel like trying to pedestrianize that route a little bit would do something. So I can add a comment on that in the document.
Yeah, that whole 69th as you move further west is a bit unfortunate for a block. And then it gets better again. So
Yeah, but if that block gets improved, right?
Yeah.
I'd support the comment, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah, I would too, Kevin. Yeah. It's just like precedent setting and future proofing allows for that access route to be much improved, especially with that light industrial area gets removed and you can connect that sidewalk and it connects with the rest of the neighborhood there.
Yeah. Seems like, are we ready to, I guess, anybody ready to make a motion for support or non-support?
I'll make a motion for support.
I'll second that.
With an emphasis that, you know, that before this gets formally submitted, that you know, it would be nice to do a bit of an overlay and address some of the items that we asked the applicant to consider.
Thanks.
Now, Nick, I've got a question about the setback maximum versus minimum. Is that only at the building location?
Yeah, I think you gotta be careful how I was thinking of that too, Janice, because they may have other buildings. So it's almost like orientated towards a building orientated towards the street, but because they got parking outside, it makes it a little bit more tricky in terms of how you put it in the DC.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about our comments. Are we just trying to say consider the use of setback maximums versus minimums at building locations?
Yes.
Okay.
Or for primary buildings.
Yeah, or primary buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
At primary building. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
Trying
Janice.
to not include the service garages or any outbuildings.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah,
trying to read it and take into account.
And what would be bold, I don't know if we want to go there, is floor area maximums or minimums. There's a maximum, not a minimum. So right now you could have most of the site as parking as asphalt. I'm not quite sure we'll go there.
Yeah, I think this bullet point should move to right after David's because it's touched on in the first bullet.
Do you want to speak to any provisions about in this zoning trying to have some sort of notes to better improve the connection at 68th Ave as well, knowing that the property to the south currently owns that space, but if we're making all these gestures to improve pedestrian access and then just have this one block cut off from the rest, especially when there's good CMUs there, is there any benefit to any of that, or it's outside of kind of this project scope?
I don't think it hurts, Shay. It could be something along the lines of encourage the applicant to continue discussions with adjacent property owners for improved connection.
I think it makes sense because those two businesses directly east have sidewalks. So it can be done. Don't have the luxury of knowing exactly where that property line is falling. But Peter, is that you raising your hand?
It is me. I wouldn't mind if David could just, I'm having trouble understanding. I highlighted it in yellow. What he's trying to say there.
I'm just talking about other aspects of edges. So
I know, but does it read as you're reducing the level of landscape or level like? There's something grammatically not right with that. I just don't understand what you're trying to say.
Just trying to say an increased level of, there you go.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's what I assumed, but I didn't want to assume. Okay, yeah.
Oh. Whoa. Okay.
In regards to the last bullet point, are we saying that, let's say for some reason they can't negotiate with the owners to the south, are we saying that we don't want them to explore opportunities within their own site? Or should
Okay.
the highlighted text?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you can probably delete that, Janice. Yeah. Just in support of their own site.
That reads better, David.
Is everyone okay with what we see on the screen and ready to vote? So if so, with the motion of support that we see in front of us on this screen, we'll go in the order of the chat. Shay?
I support.
Thank you. Mindy?
Yes, support.
Nick?
Support.
Janice?
Support.
David?
Support.
Jonathan?
Support.
Karen?
Support.
Kevin?
Support.
Neil?
Non-support.
Craig? Support. Thank you again. I don't know if Yolanda is still on the call.
Yes, I'm still here.
Thank you. I believe you will receive written notification in 48 hours.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for making the extra meeting for us today after the other one was canceled. And just wanted to send an apologies on Greg's behalf of his technical difficulties today as well.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is C2, the Quarters Affordable Housing. We'll wait for that group to join us.
Yeah, hopefully they won't be too long. We're just ahead of schedule.
Hello, Keith.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Yourself? Are we waiting for any other members of your team to join us?
No, Susan said she's watching on YouTube. So apparently she's not going to contribute, but she'll be listening.
Okay. Are we ready to go then?
Sure.
Okay, let me do my spiel. Welcome to the Edmonton Design Committee for the formal DP presentation of the Quarters Affordable Housing Project. We would like to remind you that this is a public meeting. We have all received and reviewed your submission package. Your team will have 10 minutes to present, and then we will go virtual roundtable of the committee members for questions. After the presentation, the committee will deliberate and respond to you in writing within 48 hours. I will now turn it over to you to introduce your team and the project.
Yeah, hi, my name's Keith McIntyre from Frank Hilbeck Architect Inc. Let's see, how do I share screen?
A little arrow next to the smiley face at the bottom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Nice.
Wait.
Oh.
Here, I'll just close this and open this. Is that better?
Not seeing anything right now.
Okay, sorry.
Keith, there should, yeah, okay, I was going to say stop presenting and try it again.
So you're saying it says share screen, but I'll be sharing this one. Is there a way of sharing selected screens?
Yeah, when you hit the share screen button, you're going to see a list essentially of tabs that you'll have open on your computer, and you need to be looking for the tab. I don't know what this is, if it's a PDF or if it's Bluebeam or something else. That's what you need to look for.
Yeah. Okay, this should work.
Okay.
Okay, does that work now?
Perfect.
Yeah. Maybe one more suggestion, Keith, is I don't know what this is, but if you can go and just go like full screen view, and then we get rid of all your toolbars, and it'll just be a bit easier to see.
Yeah, I don't seem to be able to manipulate it. Okay, are you seeing it being manipulated?
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if
if you go to Window in your toolbar at the top, and then it should be halfway down. There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we met earlier in an informal meeting to discuss this project, and at that time we had some notions of the project, but it was still in its kind of early stages. But we had the meeting with you just to kind of find how much support we have for the project in general, and listen to your comments. And as you realize, it was early in the project, so it's come quite a ways since then. I'm trying to figure out how to change. Yeah, I'm not familiar with this.
You should be able just to hit page down on your keyboard.
Yeah, we have that on our keyboard.
Keith, I also have a copy of your presentation if you want me to share it for you.
Please.
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
I'll stop sharing. Yeah, sorry about that. That's much better, isn't it? So you'll turn pages? Is that how that works?
Yep, just let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
Well, I might as well go to the next one. Only have 10 minutes to present. So it's in the quarters area and then 2 undeveloped sites that have been vacant for I'm not sure how long. So part of the intent of this was to, be kind of a seed to start something in this neighborhood and more development. I have other clients that own property in this neighborhood, and they're kind of watching what's happening here to see if things start picking up the pace as far as development in the area. Next slide. So these are kind of standard drawings that we, often put when we present this way. This is just showing all the transit in the area. And here's the site at the center of the orange circle. And basically, there's a lot of transportation opportunities. You can see the LRT line, the new one, the existing ones, and it's, rather transit oriented. Next slide. So although this has changed slightly, this is fundamentally how we see the basement of the building being developed. Next slide. And also here, we've made some changes. We've added, because bike storage took up this area for inclusive bike storage, we have a small office here. But ultimately, that doesn't really change anything about the layout of the building. There's been some discussion with the planner about and landscape about things that are happening on the site and how we're going to address them. There's an existing tree which we will be saving. We were asked to remove some types of planting because of how fast they grow and how big they grow, and we've done that as well. The city of Edmonton, as part of the sale of this piece of property here, has requested that we redevelop the bus stop, which we have to the extent of the property lines, which isn't quite what transportation asked for, but we felt this is significant improvement over the existing situation. Next slide. So you can see here we have 5 units per floor. We're getting away with a little trick here. Our distance between the stairs is shorter than 9 meters. But by putting self-closing double doors that are on magnetic locks, this creates 2 compartments so that we can build this. And it was somewhat inspired by the idea of the point access blocks, which our firm is looking at seriously on 2 projects currently. And we originally were going to make this a point access block, but it was just a mountain too high to climb for a building of this size at this time in the city. We have 1 adaptable unit, handicap accessible. And as part of the process with the city, we enlarged all the balconies on this building, with these 2 being quite large. One of the issues that we've had is how we describe the main floor and the use there. We want this to be a Main Street development, which means we get a certain setback, 1 meter. If we don't get that designation, this project is going to be in trouble because the setback is quite far. We have written a letter of variance yet to be presented to the city. We are waiting for this meeting to just kind of see how the EDC saw this project, and then we'd move forward with the new updated drawings for the development permit. Next drawing, please. So those of you that were in the first informal meeting, you can see that this project has dramatically changed in aesthetics. Some of the features are still the same, but it's a far more rational building now. And frankly, it's a better building. Next slide, please. One of the recommendations was some kind of public art. This is just a placeholder. We plan on engaging the community and seeing what we can do with this space. But this came directly out of the first EDC meeting. Along with the balconies and a variety of windows and just playing with the aesthetics a little bit, understanding what the layout of the building internally would require. Next slide, please. So as you can see, this building has become quite dramatic. There is no facade on this building that has like the back alley kind of attitude. Another issue that we may or may not have is with EPCOR. We require three-phase. Three-phase actually stops somewhere here. And this is all single phase. And we're hoping that we can get three-phase brought to the building and not through lines, more lines down the alley. It's quite crowded down that alley. And it's one of our attempts to not contribute to the wires on the property in the alley behind. You can skip the next slide. It wasn't too successful, and we did a sunshade analysis of the building just to illustrate that its contribution to sun shadowing is insignificant in our opinion because of its location and with the streets predominantly being where we would cast a shadow in midday, and in other instances, other buildings just overshadow us. So at the end of the day, we didn't think that it really affects the sun shadowing. Next slide, please. Here's back to the kind of the landscape comment. This is where the existing tree is. In this proposal, we're considering the entire building to be residential. And this amenity space that will be shared with the community in the form of being able to be rented out, but at all times the community will have access to the space. And this comes back to the Main Street development. The issue is, if we were to turn around and call this commercial space, we'd have to increase the parking for the handicap. And as you can see, we're very tight as it is. It would mean bringing it at least to here, which, it really starts to eat into the building footprint. We've overhung the building over here, and currently the building is fully code compliant. And back to the issue of the transformer, this is the only place we found left to put it. And, it's our hopes that, EPCOR will work with us and we can come up with a solution so that this back alley might have some more greenery to it. There's possibility. We've removed this overhead door and decided just to put a couple of double doors because all garbage will be rolled out. So there is opportunity for some more green space. Next slide, please. This is just general planting notes that we are required in the development permit to supply. I won't bother you with it, but we meet the bylaw as far as all the requirements of the landscape. Next slide. And again, I won't bother you with all this. You're free to read this. It was put together specifically for this project to address some of the context issues with the project. And we have a couple of pages of this. And if it's okay with you, you can read this at your leisure. But maybe I'll put in my presentation and put it to the EDC board to, yeah, that should be the end of the presentation there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. I'll now move to the roundtable portion, and we will start with Kevin.
Hi, Keith. Thanks for your presentation. I don't have a lot of comments. I'm very supportive of development in the neighborhood, and in particular, development of this type, this use. Yeah, the only thing is a very specific comment. The Brandon elm that you have at the back of the property might be a little big for the amount of space available at maturity. So I would maybe just encourage, and like the feather reed grass as it's being applied. Not sure if the quantities are accurate, if that's just a rendering, but maybe just a bit of extra investigation of plant spacing and species and mature size. But other than that, I don't have any comments. I appreciate the development.
Yeah, I find it interesting that I was told by in the circulation for the development permit that some of the plant species I was putting in would grow large, and I thought, well, there's a fixed number that I have to get to. So if the site seems crowded with landscape, it's partly due to required sidewalks, the exterior patio, and the parking. So we tried to make the most of what we had left, and but we could dial it back and maybe put a tree.
I'm not suggesting to dial it back. I'm suggesting to review the species and their actual mature size when they grow, and do they fit the site.
Right.
Well, I think you can still meet the quantity requirements, maybe with a bit more refined selection of species.
Certainly.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. On to Karen.
Hi there. Thanks for the presentation. I want to thank you. I can really see the evolution of the project and how you have applied our comments. There's the use of balconies and really used our comments. I appreciate that. I was a little confused over the semantics behind the amenity space versus the community space, but you actually explained that it was commercial versus private or residential, so that makes sense in terms of the parking. One question I did have, and just refresh my memory, is this a subsidized project when you say affordable housing?
Yeah, there's a few different funding channels for the building. One being City of Edmonton, which is again kindly contributing in the fall. So we're in a much better position because I think he had to have a development permit in place in order to qualify. So the last round we did not qualify for, but we will this time.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, just the affordable housing label gets put on a lot of things that actually aren't affordable. So just wanted to clarify.
So you know how much I pay for rent.
Yep, I do. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Janice, you're up.
Okay, thanks for that. Similar to Karen, I think this is a great project, not only in regards to the affordable housing component, but also a great community project. I have no questions or comments at this time. Thanks, Keith.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Jonathan.
Hey, Keith. Yeah, it's good to see the project coming along, and I was at the informal, and I think I was one of the people who mentioned the issue of having kind of like the blank wall along the stair course. So it's interesting to see, perhaps some sort of incorporation of public art or a mural on that side of the building, and I think that's still a good approach. And so hopefully that keeps through as the project progresses. And yeah, it's looking really great. So I think it'll be a great addition to the community. No further comments from me. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Shay.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Keith. I appreciate this project as well. Working on a lot of other similar types of projects myself. I do have a couple of nuanced design-related questions. One, I do love the mural and I do love the multi-story aspect of it. It does help break a lot of the massing there, and I also like the appreciation to the material selection to also break some of that massing. One of the things I did want to comment on is that east elevation. When I originally looked at the project, I thought it was just a private amenity space, and I couldn't understand why you'd have that east elevation connection. But now that it's a community space, it makes a lot more sense. However, is there a way to change the facade of that to make it feel more welcoming to the community? At the moment, it feels just like a side door into the building, whereas if it's a big community engagement piece to directly interact with the community into the building, it just feels a little cold, whether that's with signage or any other architectural components. That was just my question. One is also, I'm curious about the design and material intent for the amenity space fencing. It's kind of at the prominent corner on the northwest side of the project. It looks like it's decorative in nature, and if that's the case, it does help add a little bit of warmth, which is good. But yeah, just curious what is happening with that fence. It's not a chain link fence.
No. It's laser cut.
Oh, awesome.
Powder coated. It's actually I found it online and I used it, and then somebody in my office found it at one of the local hardware stores. And I thought, oh, it's actually available and not at a premium. So we'll build our own frame to hold it. But yeah, I think it's lovely. I don't know if it would be appropriate to put on the balconies because, maybe you want more transparency. But if I thought for the sake of privacy and some, letting some light in, but at the same time, not making it climbable so that, it just becomes a big jungle gym.
Yeah, it helps with that permeability. Okay, so that clarifies that. One of the things I also struggle sometimes with projects like this is the PMT is located right on the north east corner of the project, and you're walking in a pedestrian single family ground when you're walking along a nice sidewalk, and then all of a sudden there's a huge transformer right beside you. I would love for that to be moved to the southwest corner. I know the site is super small and super tight already, and that involves a lot of rejigging of that west site plan. But if the PMT can be moved, I know with other projects where they are located so close to the pedestrian realm, they do feel cold and kind of out of place. And then my last comment was just on the balconies. So a couple of the balconies do feel really nice and comfortable. I was more concerned about the balcony sizes on the west side, especially the one on the northwest corner. That's a barrier-free suite, but I don't think they actually, if someone is in a walker or mobility device, they can actually turn around on their own balcony, especially if it's inclusive of a chair. So I think that balcony might need to increase in size if that remains a barrier-free unit. And then the only other comment I would have is the west massing feels very close to the pedestrian sidewalk on the east elevation as well, particularly on the second floor. If you have that second floor unit on the east side, you're basically just a couple of feet away from folks' heads when they're walking by. So it feels pretty close to the setback, and expands, I think, as an overhang past the setback, and it does feel close to the pedestrian realm there on some of the lower ones. But those are all my comments. Super excited for the project though too. Great community, great neighborhood.
Yeah, just to address a couple of things. The west facade and the balconies, we've got back to EPCOR and the whole transformer thing. There's this whole thing about swings of the lines. If if we had 3-phase up on those lines, we'd have to set the back and the balconies. Those balconies just wouldn't happen on the lower floors because of the danger. We're really trying to bury the line. I'm in contact with EPCOR currently to suggest this. And as the conversation goes, I mean, what I'd like to see is that transformer underground. Or worst case scenario, I guess, would be up the pole, like three cans up on the pole, which I don't like to see either. I'd like to see it buried, but I know EPCOR's kind of, I've tried before and wasn't successful. Although you see them all the time in city sidewalks, you know, those grates. So is it the best location? There's no great location for transformers. And our worst fear is they're going to come back and say you need, what's the other unit called? Basically a second size transformer to feed future buildings. And I don't know where that would go. So, of course, an issue with this project, as is, some other things, but we're trying to, chip our way through and see where we can end up with hopefully a happy medium.
It's a journey with EPCOR, for sure.
All's fun.
Thank you both. David, you're up.
Yeah, thanks, Keith, for your presentation. I don't have any questions of clarification for what was presented. I just do have one comment that, in my opinion, there wasn't enough information on the main floor site landscape components, both sort of soft and hard landscape, the site furnishings and the features. And the materials to help sort of get a better understanding of how those items have sort of supported the form and function of the housing and those amenity spaces in the front entry and the surrounding contacts, right? Like that connection to the public realm and to the neighborhood that really sort of further support creating that sense of place and home for residents. So it really would be nice to see a little bit more information on those aspects in relationship to the building aspects that you've presented. And that, as I said, it sort of led to the fact that I don't really have any questions for the development. So, but it would have been nice to see more information on that. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, David. I don't know. There's so many different things pushing and pulling on a project that is on a site like this that, we found too often that we were reacting to requests by the various departments of the city. And the EDC presentation is kind of a reflection of the DP circulation. A lot of things are where they are because they need to be. And yes, I understand, I don't talk about the materials of the sidewalks and
I would suggest that, like if you did that, Keith, then you'd probably gain better feedback from us, especially from myself as a landscape architect, and Kevin, maybe build some support around the intent that you'd like to establish that would convince a development officer that yes, this is the right direction, rather than fighting back and forth with trying to figure out what is going to be acceptable. If there was some aspect of intent that we could say yay or nay and support and be behind you, I think that would maybe resolve a lot of maybe the back and forth that you've had with administration, city administrations. So anyway, just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm not really poking at the city administration. there's code issues that, need to be, and the residential entrance is a great example of that. The sidewalk, there needs to be a certain distance between the fire hydrant and the Siamese connection and the main door. And that sidewalk has to be a certain distance away from the tree of the boulevard. So you start pushing and pulling and tugging and things end up the way they are from various different influences. I'm not angry about that. It's just, part of the game, I guess. And then where do you put the transformer? Sorry. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. Nick.
Thanks, Keith. And yeah, it's a huge improvement from when I think it came before last time. So great job. I have just one real question and probably my biggest concern, which is at the base level of the building. And, unfortunately, we haven't got any plans about lighting. And from a SebTed point of view, there's a lot of blank walls down the alleyway. The south elevation is very flat. It's very dark. So, if anything, I think it's important to get some lighting in there that can help make the place feel a little bit better, particularly along the alleyway there. It's just a blank wall, and that sort of concerns me a little bit. You got that overhang as well. And even on the north elevation, you got that little bit of a solid sort of blank. So just those elements, I think, would really highlight the base of the building and make you feel more comfortable as you walk around it. Maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, well, there's a price for everything. I like the idea of introducing windows on all the faces you mentioned. Sometimes, a mechanical room, does it need windows? No. Could you put them in? Well, yeah. They might have other consequences, related to the building code about exposure, and I'm just saying.
I understand, Keith. I'm not questioning what you're saying there. What I'm talking about is what I'm not seeing is any way to address it through using light around at the base of the building to illuminate the rear areas. And I think that would be one of my recommendations, is to see a little bit more to make the place feel a little bit more comfortable as people walk around it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you might have noticed that I skipped the night views of the project because the rendering, they didn't turn out very well at all.
Yeah. And I noticed that, and it just didn't show, and that's why I picked up on is particularly the rear lane. So just some of those elevations, I'm not sure what the lighting plan is. So I'm just bringing that forward as I think it's important. As much as there's affordable building, there's also safety around the building. And when you've got quite blank spaces, I think we need to make sure that there's visibility for people to clearly see where they're moving, because that acts as a sense of security.
Yeah, I'd rather
that's all my comment.
Yeah, I'd rather the lighting come off the building than have a street lamp right at the back there.
Absolutely, I agree, and that would be one of my recommendations. You could add some subtle lighting in there, some LEDs, just to light up some areas that could also make the building pop, to make it a little bit more interesting and feel, there's that sense of feeling when you walk through darkness of how someone doesn't feel comfortable versus someone feeling comfortable.
Well, I don't walk around much at night, but I sure do appreciate a building lit up.
All right. Thank you very much. My comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Neil.
Thank you. I certainly echo all the fond statements here. I think you've managed the mass very well, and it's going to fit great. Just curious, as I was thinking, while Nick was bringing up the base, what's the material that you have in mind for that base? The black?
It's thin brick.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just more curious, and as Nick was talking, he's like, that would be a fantastic place for future mural or painting or brightening or anything to add some any community expression. But I have no real issues with this building, so I'll pass it on.
Yeah, we're a bit of a fan of black ceramic, thin brick tiles.
Oh, I like that too.
It's got a certain kind of presence to it, and a sense of strength. As anyways, the building kind of follows a kind of a standard practice of a strong base and lighter as you go up, and that's totally intentional.
Works for me.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. Mindy.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you very much for your presentation, Keith. I really had to think about this one as I was reading my comments from the informal because I couldn't remember what it looked like before. The improvements are appreciated. It's definitely more legible, and I think there's a higher quality of living provided. And like others have mentioned, I'm very grateful for the impact of this project. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you, Mindy. And that leaves me. I'm maybe just focus a little bit on Shay started to touch on that door for the amenity space. Sorry, I'm kind of looking back to the plans here. Out to, is it 95th? 95th?
Yes.
It would be nice to, if you could incorporate some kind of canopy there, that might give you the kind of entrance that Shay was mentioning. The other thing I wanted to ask about was the bus stop. It looks like about half of that frontage on that site is a bus stop. Is the intent that the bus shelter is going to stay with the outside bench and trash can?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Our part of the deal, buying the property to sell it, because there's two properties actually that need to be consolidated, was that we would upgrade the bus stop to city standards. And we had from the transportation engineer some directives on how to achieve that. The fact that it's completely concrete actually comes from them. They actually wanted it slightly bigger so that it starts to come onto our property. And I thought, well, as a compromise, let's do this. And I haven't heard back from transportation whether they're accepting the compromise. But yeah, that's a city standard for buses on this location, the path that they go on. What kind of shelter or garbage or benches they put on, that's kind of up to transit and transportation.
Okay. Yeah, certainly the length of it seems more than adequate to me. I imagine they might be asking for more depth. My only kind of, and it's not really kind of a concern, it's just kind of more tweaking of anything, is maybe the selection of plants there that may get damaged just being immediately adjacent. Kind of maybe there's something that can provide. It seems like you're looking for a level of screening to some of that glazing. I don't know if something like a short wall, like a very short wall, like almost like a bench height, something that might allow you to kind of build more of a planter in behind there, maybe support those plants a little bit more and give a separation to the abuse they might take if they were just at grade next to that concrete, and maybe even provide additional seating for the bus stop along there. Just a small little tweak thought, but
interesting enough, the grade of the site is such that there will be a retaining wall behind the bus stop. There's going to be 3 steps up to that east entrance.
Okay.
Just because we have that much grade change. And in order to keep the building handicap accessible, the residential entrance, of course, it slopes away from the building, but that is the main floor. So that means that the amenity space suddenly, as a site, it doesn't dive, but there is a grade change going towards 95th. And yeah, 3 steps. So we'll have retaining walls right where you're talking about. So
okay,
that'll help to control that kind of sense of flow, and the grass is really, what else do you put in there that provides screening without putting screening in? Plus, there's fence. We have the fence. We're putting it in a few places. I just thought, let's not get carried away with the fence and you know, it's actually city property, that the edge where the retaining wall will be. So not to go down that rabbit hole of who paints that.
Fair enough. Thank you. I just want to also reiterate that thank you for bringing this to us as an informal, and certainly the progression has been nice to see, and the responsiveness to the comments of the committee from the first go around have been appreciated by us all.
Well,
so thank you.
I appreciate very much you guys seeing me. I know there was a little back and forth, but we got through that, and here we are. And I thank you for your support.
So thank you for bringing this before the Edmonton Design Committee. We will now transition into deliberations. Feel free to stay on the meeting, but we ask that you do not participate in the deliberations.
I'll turn off my mic.
Thank you. All right. Someone want to kick us off? I open up the document.
I think, Craig, we could put a motion forward of support for the application. But I'm happy to put that forward if need be.
I'll second that, Nick.
Thank you.
Cute. I didn't hear any major concerns.
And maybe my only other point here would be if there's an amenity space there, that's, again, it's that same east facing amenity space. If it is, looks like it's just 3 steps. If that's the case, and that's the primary door for the neighborhood, that it probably should be barrier free as well. I'm not sure if it is a barrier free access path or not. Otherwise, they'd be going into the private lobby residential space for access.
That's a good point.
I think that could just be added to that first bullet point, right? For the community, period. Pedestrian access should be barrier free.
Yeah, I certainly didn't catch those 3 steps in the graphic.
Is there anything we should say about like the art, like the mural art piece, and specifically like I mean, I don't know, Janice, maybe you would know better, but just like finding ways to ensure that it could potentially be like a really nice piece of public art, like working with the Edmonton Arts Council, or is that something that we can't?
Yeah,
include?
typically, like the Edmonton Arts Council only deals with publicly funded art. Now, they could be a resource to put out an art call, like they've got a bunch of artists that they could recommend, etc. There's so many good murals and mural artists around the city. I don't think they'll have any issues. I think the only comment I would say is, do we want to maybe put some verbiage around consideration of public engagement with the mural. Because I think that's more so the piece, right? Like I think that they can get an artist, no problem. I think it's the content itself of the mural.
Like a community engagement aspect.
Yeah.
I would focus my comment on the public art to ensure that it survives any cost savings measures that might occur on the project, and that it forms a pretty core component of that north facade, and that just ensure it makes it through to the final built work, as it is a really important piece. And if it is developed with some input from the community, that would make it all the stronger, and kind of really want to see it happen. I just feel like in the past we've seen projects that aspire to having public art, and then due to process and other challenges, it maybe doesn't always survive all the way through the project process. So I don't know. Do you want me to jump in and add something to that? Is that valid, or is that too
I think so. I was going to try and write the last bullet to be something about the publicly accessible art mural shown the elevation is, you know,
a core element of the architectural facade. And we strongly recommend that it be retained throughout the design process through to the built work.
something like that.
Yeah.
Projects don't go through value engineering.
If only, hey?
I think that looks good. Seems like it.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a thumbs up from Peter and Ashley.
Okay with the language? Okay, let's move on to voting for the motion of support that we see before us in the same question order. We'll start with Kevin.
Support.
Karen.
Support.
Janice.
Support.
Jonathan.
Support.
Shay.
Support.
David.
Support.
Nick.
Support.
Neil.
Support.
Mindy.
Support.
And Craig support. So with that, Keith, if you're still on the line, we thank you for bringing this to us, and you will receive your written notice in 48 hours.
Thank you very much, everyone. That was exciting.
Have a good evening.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is C.3, 3, Union Bank, Phase 2.
Yeah, and we're about 20 minutes ahead of schedule, so just curious if the committee wants to keep going or take a short break.
I vote for keep going if Frank Architecture is on the line and their team's available.
I support that.
Okay. Well, we'll get Ashley to get in touch with them.
We are
One of them, I think, is on the meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're actually here.
Hi. We just joined. Thanks for having us.
Welcome. So we're going. Sorry, is your whole team here?
We are, yep, we are. We have Kate Allen. Craig, it's actually nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Kate.
Yeah, and Suhan.
Hi.
So I'm the partner involved on this project, the principal architect, and Suhan is the lead designer and project manager. And we are ready to share whenever the team's ready.
Okay, let me get into my spiel. So welcome to the Edmonton Design Committee for the formal DP application of the Union Bank presentation. Sorry, 1 second. I'm jumping all over screens here. Let me start again. Welcome to the Edmonton Design Committee for the formal DP presentation of the Union Bank building project. We would like to remind you that this is a public meeting. We have all received and reviewed your submission package. Your team will have 10 minutes to present, and then we will go virtual roundtable of the committee members for questions. After the presentation, the committee will deliberate, and we will respond to you in writing within 48 hours. With that, I will now turn it over to you to introduce your team and your project.
Great, thank you. So our team, I guess on the record, I'm Kate Allen. I'm the principal architect on the project. And this is Suhan, who is the project manager and senior designer on the project. We're working on a large renovation to the Union Bank building, circa 1910-11, which is undergoing an extensive renovation to restore the significance of this important pre-World War I example of Italian Renaissance-inspired classical architecture and a product of the Alberta economic boom of the 1910s. So this project includes some maintenance, some restoration, as well as a major renovation to the building systems design, roof upgrades, as well as a building addition on the east side on the TELUS Park side of the space. Thanks, Sue. With this construction project, there's a return to the previous role of offices of various businesses. So this project returns the building to a financial use, and then it also will be renovating the anchor restaurant on the main level on the Jasper Ave side. So here's a shot of the existing building, which is located on Jasper Avenue, adjacent to the TELUS Park. Our client has recently acquired the adjacent property to the Union Bank, so that property is now part of the project. So here you can see the existing building, which has many character-defining elements intact. We've been undergoing restoration and maintenance on a lot of these elements with our clients. So I'll just go through those elements. The form and massing of the building on its visible facades. The features of the north facade, including the rusticated base with 4 ground-level arched window openings, 6 giant order pilasters with Ionic capitals, 10 first and second, which is actually the second and third level window openings, and all the associated decorative brick and limestone elements. A sheet metal cornice with dentils, the light well and 10 window openings on the east and west facades, which reflect the original functional requirements of interior offices and living quarters for the bank employees, and the ghost sign advertising the Kennard Steamship Co. and James Richardson and Sons on the east facade. And this is actually being restored by our client already to date. The building is undergoing brick repointing and window replacement, all using the recommended heritage consultants and keeping and respecting the character-defining elements of the building. The list DP includes, we can probably go to the next page. So we're doing a renovation to the interior in phase 1, which includes offices on the first and second level and a rebuild of the building systems. And then this DP relates to the restaurant renovation on the main level, the anchor tenant, the addition, the building addition on the side, which will be an extension of that restaurant. So this DP relates to that building addition on the east facade of the heritage building, which includes a vestibule, which is the new entry for that anchor restaurant, and lobby of the space. We've been reviewing the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada. And so this addition and renovation has been, the stance we've taken is to really make a renovation that is subordinate to the original architecture of the heritage building. It's a combination of, sorry, I'm just losing my spot here. It will be constructed with a minimal intervention to the existing east facade. It combines black metal windows with a stone base. Sorry, Sue, I'm just losing my spot here.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, the patio addition has the black metal roof, the black operable windows, and the stone metal base. In addition to that, we'll see this in subsequent slides, but we have a central podium that connects the contemporary building and the historical building. We also have an introduction of curved canopies, which invites patrons of the building to enter the pedestrian walkway from either the Jasper Avenue or the laneway, and this will be the primary entrance. Well, it will be the only entrance into the restaurant and also into the contemporary side of the building.
I think actually the elevation, we should just look ahead a couple of Zoom. We can talk about how this intervention, yeah, this one right here. So this intervention really defines the formal arrangements of the building. So we have the Heritage Union Bank on the right-hand side with its original brick. You can see the light well, and then we have the 90s contemporary addition on the back side. The connecting portion between the two is an existing connecting portion, which is being modified. It's currently in a rust-colored masonry block, and we're proposing to paint the existing masonry block, but we're adding a new roof that relates to the connecting stair rebuild on the interior, which is a rebuild to make this exit stair comply with code. But we sort of created this sliver which contrasts the heritage building and the 90s additions to really articulate the formal arrangement of the site and clarify the heritage building from the 90s addition, and highlight the beauty of the heritage architecture, which is really quite stunning, which is why we've chosen kind of a dark black. It's very, it's sort of, it's subordinate really to the heritage building. We're, I guess, minimizing the color and the painting on the 90s heritage side. So we are painting the existing ephes with a rust color and a beige, very similar to the existing. It's just simplified a little bit in the rendering. And then the heritage side, like I said, has all been repointed and all of the brick is existing. And then this building addition takes a very minimal approach. So I think one of the things that the guideline states is that it is reversible. So we're taking all efforts to make this be kind of a freestanding building addition that has minimal connection to the existing architecture. So it's its own, it's a freestanding piece. We will have, of course, fastenings, but they will be very minimal. We're not creating any new openings to the heritage resource. We're just layering on top. So being really careful about that. The new vestibule is the new prominent entry for the restaurant and the building lobby, which will service the offices above. And so we're creating this kind of curved canopy to bring people in and invite people, which projects over the pedestrian walkway. There is a campus behind the building, and so it was really important to maintain that pedestrian access through the site, which is a 2-meter walkway. So we can probably, if we kind of cycle back, I think this was really illustrates the formal organization of the site. The owner has a vision, is hoping to work with the adjacent owner of the Telus Park to create some landscaping that will really complement the restaurant addition and the pedestrian walkway, something that will kind of create a bit of a canopy there. And this project also creates this really meaningful connection to the adjacent TELUS Park. We have the restaurant use opening up, so we'll be activating the site. And also there's a bit of a symbiotic relationship there. They're talking about, you know, being able to have that restaurant potentially for picnics and to-go coffees, and having that beautiful park right there to kind of just have the life of the building, the revitalization, breathing new life into the building, people coming in and experiencing this heritage resource again, is a really exciting component of this project for us. And also having people come in and experience the building in a use that relates to the history of the building with the financial offices is also great. It's also quite interesting to us. We have granite pavers, which are proposed hardscaping along this property between the park and the Union Bank building, which is part of the project site. The granite pavers are articulated in kind of a banding pattern with different formats to kind of create a little bit of a cadence and a rhythm for that pedestrian traffic, create some interest on the site. We also have some planters delineating the pedestrian realm from the pull-in, kind of the pickup drop-off parking spot. And then we have proposed lighting on the site to create a safe space. So there's a bit of a rhythm with lighting mounted to the outside of the building addition, as well as some street lighting at the back to create that illuminated walkway that is continuous from the front to the back of the site. Here's an overview of the materials on the site. We have the existing brick, which has been cleaned and repointed, and the sign has been maintained. We have existing EFIS, which is also being repaired and repainted in the beige and the rust, and those are colors that already show up on the site. And then we have the black materials that will be used to articulate the separation between the two buildings, but it's also the connection, that formal move, which is the central stair connecting the two buildings, the new vestibule, and the building addition, which will be the restaurant, kind of a Four Seasons patio for the restaurant. So it is a full heated space, but it does have a lot of windows that open up and create a strong connection to the exterior. Those materials include painting of the existing masonry block, new standing seam metal roof, a new honed quartzite stone, which appears on the base of the new vestibule, and then aluminum clad structural framing of the vestibule and the building addition. And then we have new full bed masonry with a beige mix on the base of the new addition. We have ornamental metal trim as a detail on the top of the new vestibule to give it some kind of character and introduce a bit of storytelling. And then we have antique brass finishes show up, and the new limestone or concrete coping stone on the top of the new stone wall for the addition. Anything else to others who? No, good. Yes. A few minutes left. Why don't we show the renderings that that show the use of the addition. Yeah, there you go. So you can really see the relationship with the TELUS Park adjacent here. The new street lighting at the back, the new the lamp posts and the planter boxes at the back, and then the vestibule, which has a door opening to the pedestrian side as well as to the alley side, and then the building addition, which has operable windows all the way along. So the use is really, really can enjoy the park, and there's a really strong relationship there. Here's a close-up of the vestibule entry. You can see the new the stone base on the vestibule, as well as the building addition and the mullion patterning, which actually has been revised slightly since this DP application. So this is the new version that we will have to submit a revision for. There are a few more mullions now. And from the front, you can see that addition from the Jasper Avenue side with the stone base and the metal aluminum clad structure and mullion patterning. And these windows are not operable on this side due to a lot of dust and debris from the road. It's more sheltered to the park side. I'm going to show the interior Wednesday before we run out of time, just to show that we are really respecting the existing architecture of the heritage building by maintaining the brick wall finish, which is currently the exterior finish of the east side of the heritage facade, and we are just leaving it, maintaining it, and the addition is built right up to it and really celebrates that materiality with the existing opening. So this is the interior of the building addition opening up onto Telus Park. You can see the windows that slide either side. We've picked a black to really contrast the heritage building so that the brick and the ghost sign and the original materials can really come to life. So we've taken the stance that this design, we're not impairing the heritage value. We hope to enhance it and allow visitors to experience this heritage building and breathe new life into it. The design process included a lot of research. We dug up photos from archives. We engaged a heritage consultant and a researcher to try to dig up as much as they possibly could to inform the design of the building. We had various assessments completed on the roof, on the brick, on the foundation, on the windows from heritage consultants in order to maintain all of the character defining elements in the proper way. And our client has really invested a lot in doing so and is very committed to the heritage value and preservation of this building.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Safe to assume you're done?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks again. We will now proceed to the roundtable portion of the review. Jonathan, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, no, it was, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a really exciting project, such a prominent historic building. I think everyone's excited to see sort of the next generation of it. I just had my own curiosity is the kind of like restaurant space, is it sort of like on the ground level of the building and then it kind of floods into that enclosed patio space, or is it just the patio space and then like how does that work?
That's a good question. It is everyone's probably familiar with Madison's, which used to be the anchor restaurant in the space.
Yeah.
So it will be the same space. So the entire main level on the Jasper Ave side will be a restaurant fit out that further celebrates the history of the building. I feel is really exciting with the storytelling and the narrative there. It was important to the client to give Edmontonians and visitors and a chance to experience this building in a way that makes them feel like they're experiencing the history of the building. So this restaurant celebrates the history of the building being a trading floor for the stock exchange, and celebrates some of the previous tenants, and just really leans into that rich history and it being a symbol of resilience and strength. And it's still standing, and it's so beautiful. And so we hope that the restaurant will do all of that justice, but it's the whole main level. And the openings to the addition are limited because there are 2 existing arched openings in the brick, which is of course original to the building. And so we have just maintained those 2 openings. where you can see there is a horizontal mullion which set the height of our building addition roof line. So the arch comes above to allow some natural light in, and then the addition sits below. There are actually additional restaurant spaces in the lower level as well, which are PDRs and lounge spaces, which kind of further celebrate the history of the building and take you into another layer of storytelling on the lower level. So there are more spaces for the public to experience, I think, than previously in the building.
Yeah, I think the materiality of that that addition, I think, is it complements the building well. So yeah, I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. My question is around the kind of the interface between the extension, the new development, and the park.
Mm-hmm.
And it relates to the interior. I'm by no means an interior designer, but I noted the stone plinth at the bottom of the building, and then the banquette seating on the interior. It leaves the interface really those windows above the banquette. So like when those windows are open, yeah, you get a breeze, you might be able to see out there. But I wonder, did you investigate an opportunity where the glazing comes lower and you're really able to get a sense of being in the park when you're inside the restaurant? The base feels a bit heavy when you have that park right adjacent to be engaged with.
That's an interesting comment. We did go through a few iterations from everything from an open air patio, a very European inspired patio, to something more enclosed like this. I think part of the driver for the banquettes was the flexibility for groups, right? And we actually ended up with rectangular tables so that they can service groups at that banquet. It's a great way for restaurateurs to host large groups and events. I think, yeah, that's interesting. I think it's one of the conversations that kept coming with this project was the balance between sheltering the occupants from Jasper Avenue and the buses and the dust of the road, and creating an experience that was very linked to specifically to the building. So you're entering this this experience deeply rooted in history and storytelling, but also connecting to the park. So this addition is really, it's very focused on the park. We've got the solid walls of heritage and the park. And Sue, how high are those windows? Like they're significant.
The bottom of the window, the frame is at about 36 inches or 9.15 off the ground level. One of the considerations as well was just durability of the material from the exterior. So the owner is concerned, particularly with the amount of pedestrian traffic that currently exists, and we fully anticipate with the way that this is designed with the pedestrian setback, that there would still be a high level of traffic, and so that was a consideration as well. So it's that balance of that indoor-outdoor experience, which is very desired from both sides, and durability, and also just the visibility of the banquettes from the exterior in. And once we drop the window, that would be a factor as well.
And I think for occupant comfort, people gravitate towards semi-sheltered seating areas.
Totally.
Feel like,
Yeah. I totally appreciate there's a lot going on to it. I'm not a restaurateur, so I don't know the nuances of table types and seat types. I'm just thinking from a kind of singular perspective of outdoor indoor interface, if you had like open tables, movable chairs up against glazing that hit the floor, you would feel like you're dining in the park. That's, like I said, that's one perspective. There's not a right or wrong. It's just where my head went, and I will leave my comments there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Neil.
Thank you. I'd love to see this project. I'm actually similar with with Kevin that I'm like, even just the space between the bottom of the windows and the banquette height to bring in a little more transparency or more transparency up into the roof. But that, again, these are minor details, because and I'll tell you, I don't love the stone plinth. It's like a material that is neither the brick nor the contemporary. So that, just that little aspect itself, but that honestly, yeah, I have no real substantive concerns. I'm gonna pass it on.
Thank you, Neil. David.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. The only comment I have is that it would have been nice to have a bit more information on, plan information on the public private realm. That sort of pedestrian connector that you're developed, and I know that there's some existing, I believe there's still some existing public art along there, and how that's going to be relocated. And just, you talked about sort of the surfacing and the rhythm of that, but how that surfacing relates and integrates with the types of surfacing along Jasper Avenue within Telus Plaza and to the south. And also, it would just be nice to have a little bit more detail around these landscape additions that are being considered, and the design of those beds and the species that are being used. It would be nice to have a little bit more information on that. I'm assuming that some of these things are not yet determined because they are going through some form of review in conjunction with the Telus Park.
Yes, we don't have the species yet because so the client is still interested in, I guess, elaborating on the plantings and just creating something along that edge, which is really spectacular, I guess, for both properties. But Telus has recently sold. The conversation hasn't been picked up since the sale of that property, and so he's still interested in picking it up, but we don't have a lot of information on where it's standing right now. And there is a landscape package which is sort of pending. So the species have yet to be selected for the planter boxes, which are delineate the pedestrian corridor from the one single stall that we have for pickup drop-off at the back end of the property. But there are 2 planter boxes there along with the street lighting. So those need some development in terms of the species and just making sure that we have the correct sizes for whatever the planted intervention there is. And then you're correct, there is public art, which the client has paid to be relocated. We don't know what the new location is, though, so we haven't been privy to that.
Okay. Yeah.
That does allow for that pedestrian corridor to happen. It would be conflicting otherwise.
Yes. That agreed. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you,
a great
David.
addition.
Thank you,
David. Mindy.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. Thanks for your presentation. No questions. I think you've succeeded at enhancing the heritage value. It's a really beautiful project and very well designed. That's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Mindy. Janice.
Similar to Mindy, I don't have any questions or comments. I think this is a great project. Thanks.
Thank you. Nick.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great project as well. Very exciting to see it hopefully get built soon. So thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Shay.
Yeah, thank you, Frank team. This looks awesome and exciting. I do very much appreciate a lot of the material selections. The black standing seam, I think, will look real classy there. I guess my only major comment here is maybe in relation to the exterior lighting proposals. If I recall from reading the package, there's a focus on some of the lower light embedded into the masonry veneer below the operable windows. And my only real comment is, are you guys thinking of other alternative ways to light the space, particularly in the wintertime when I know those lights, especially at that lower elevation, are inevitably going to be covered by snow or get covered up. And so is there any ways that you're looking to elevate or light the edge of the building or provide some sort of signage or wayfinding to bring folks to the entry that's off of Jasper, especially considering non-summer weather?
Yeah, it's so important to ground the conversation in the climate, like the weather that we actually have here in Alberta. So the lighting, actually, one of the other renderings might show, the night rendering shows it. The lighting on the stone base is a bit higher, so it is not right down at the base. There you go. You can see it raised up, and I know there are times when we do have a lot of snow, but it's a bit higher. It's about what would you say, 30 inches to 32 inches in the wall there, so we'll kind of graze that texture. But then there also will be the illumination of the restaurant, which, you know, is an aesthetic layer to the park, that kind of whimsical nature of the light coming through the mullions. But it won't do a lot for street lighting. We will be relying on the lighting in that stone base. So this is it is a good comment. We have had conversations about the lighting on this facade, but also really trying to limit projections because we're so tight on that 2 meter pedestrian walkway. So there is some more lighting. I guess we don't have a night view of the vestibule, but there's lighting in the canopies as well. And we could speak a little bit to the signage, although the signage will be a separate development permit. We have a marketing agency working on the signage, and they'll be leading the signage development permit. So we kind of kept the signage out of this, except for I guess just the indication of the Union Financial logo on this canopy.
Okay. Other than that, that's my only other comment. Super excited to elevate Jasper a little further with this project.
Thank you, Shay. Karen.
Find my mic there. Thanks for the presentation. I think this is really, really exciting project, and love to see the new and the old and the contrast. I think there's some real potentials here for building off kind of the Winter City initiative, things like that. So yeah, I think it looks great. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, myself. I also don't have too much new to say that hasn't been said before. I too was a little confused about the placement of the artwork and what was going to happen, and the pathway kind of north to south. Much like Shay, I think some higher lighting would benefit it, because I believe there's 6 light standards, kind of decorative light standards now, kind of front to back of that building, and in the new one, I think there's 3. So if you could even have something on the structural posts of that the new addition, even to have 2 down the middle, that might be helpful. Maybe 1 on the corner, something well mounted, be nice. And then I can't remember who mentioned the base. I'm also struggling with the materiality of that base, and I don't know if it's trying to be a what's the term the heritage architects always like to tell me, like a false history, right? And if it's something that can break from it, because I think was it Neil mentioned it's kind of doesn't really kind of connect with any of the other materials already there, so maybe it is something that's strikingly different to stand out and kind of just be more new than trying to be old. But that's highly debatable. Other than that, I think it's a really elegant project, and it'll be nice to see this building come back online after a few years. So thank you again for your presentation. We will now move to the deliberation portion of the deliberation portion. So we thank you for bringing this forward to the Edmonton Design Committee. Feel free to stay on the call, but we ask that you do not participate in the deliberations. And after our deliberation, we will again give you a written notice in about 48 hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does someone want to kick us off, the discussion off, while I quickly open up the document?
I think the only two things we really heard, Craig, was after we got confirmation that the spiral artwork is going to be relocated, was in regards to the exterior light placement. And then potentially the exterior surfacing and wall base relates. And then maybe whatever David's typing. Is there anything specific, Craig, and I think it was Kevin that commented on the wall base? Is there anything specific you would like to comment on it, or?
I don't know if I have any solution per se. I mean, there's two avenues in heritage architecture where you're either sympathetic or you break free from the history completely. So you're never creating this false narrative of or false history. And I tend to always lean on the sympathetic side. But I'm usually alone in that belief. I think a stone base is appropriate and durable.
Normally, I'd love to see the stone base, but yeah, it's not quite sympathetic and it's not quite contrasting.
And it's not like the renovation is providing them with bricks to reuse.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
And putting a new red brick, I don't think it's the right answer either. So I don't know.
No go. That never, ever,
Yeah.
ever, ever works out well.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of that one on 124th.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe dialogue did, Janice. If I'm not
Yeah, it may be. I just
think you know the one.
If you're not salvaging the brick from the same project,
Yes.
it typically isn't successful.
I will say the stone has a similar patterning, so I like that. But it's quite different from the other sides that have more of a solid base. Like the stone's solid, but it has that pattern because of the color variation.
Yeah, I don't know. I
just don't know if it's worth elevating.
I kind of feel like it's a personal preference.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like
That's why. Yeah, I'm happy to keep it out.
That's where I'm at as well.
Yeah. And then David, do you just want to speak? Oh, sorry, Kevin.
No, it is neither contemporary nor referential though to the existing. It kind of, maybe that's part of what threw me on looking at the images is that stone plinth, the materiality, something about it isn't jiving. I'm just reiterating what you guys have already said, but I don't know if maybe a more contemporary approach to format and finish of that stone base, like if it's a larger format to nod towards the more monolithic stone base on the Jasper Ave side, a cleaner cut stone that lends itself maybe more to the black steel structure and glazing or something, but it's kind of like someone said, it's straddling between the two approaches to appending something to a heritage building. So maybe we just have a comment to investigate materiality and finish of that stone base. And then obviously it's a design decision. And like you said, Janice, it's a preference question, but I think if multiple of us have commented on it, there's something about it that isn't sitting quite right.
Yeah, I liked something that you said there. So a review of the masonry base materiality and finish in relation to, like, you're trying to draw at, it's like Craig was saying, it's a false history. You're clinging to something historic that may not necessarily need to be there versus modernizing it. Like I think what you were saying, Kevin,
Yeah,
like it's straddling that line.
exactly. And it's kind of like a brick facade, but not really, like with the small format. So yeah, someone better wordsmithy than me will.
Go for it, Shay. You might be able to wordsmith it better than I can. Maybe while we're doing that, I'll put a motion of support out there.
I'll second.
Okay, and then Ashley can share screen. Thanks, David.
The one thing I forgot to ask, and it's more building permit related, was what happens to that fire department sprinkler connection? But I'm sure that will get sorted out.
See, this is why you have an architect write an architect bullet. And I guess Craig and Kevin, the good thing for us is the applicant stayed on. They heard our struggle.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a very hard discussion. There is personal biases with it.
100%. That's why it's good they heard a bunch of rambling kind of stream of conscious gut feelings about it and can take it for what it is. But I like where Shay's going with
Yeah, trying to, what's it? It's an old like John Ruskin quote. It's like, yeah, trying to make the materiality fit its use, and so don't make it feel old when it's very new, or don't have it look old. It's like, you know, like pre-wash, what's it, stonewash jeans, making it look old, or ripping holes in your jeans when they're brand new. It's a very poor analogy, but
I don't know, Shay. I love those jeans.
I think your bullet editing is great, Shay.
I think that looks good. Administration okay with our language?
Just hang on, there's a little typo. Oh, there it is. Project selection. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. Those thumbs up don't appear in the YouTube channel, by the way. Funnily enough. All right, let's move to voting. For the motion of support that we see before us in the same question order. Jonathan?
Support.
Kevin?
Support.
Neil?
Support.
David?
Support.
Is that a support? David?
That's like, yeah, I said support.
Okay, sorry. Bindi?
Support.
Janice?
Support.
Nick?
Support.
Shay?
Support.
Karen?
Support.
And Craig's support. Thank you again, Frank Architecture. You will receive your written and no notice in 48 hours. Next item is close to the public. At this point, can I make a motion I'd like to make a motion for the Edmonton Design Committee to meet in private. Could I get a second?
Yes, I second.
Thank you. Can we stop sharing?
Working on it.
Okay. Thank you.